This conference will now be recorded.
Okay guys, let's get started. So first of all, I would like to welcome you all to this Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager online training session. Now I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kashif. I am from India, Mumbai. I have somewhere around 13 years of practical IT experience. I am a BSc IT graduate. I did my graduation from Mumbai University, and later on I started working in IT. Uh, I started working as a IT technical support engineer. So I worked in SCCM level 1, level 2, level 3 team. Now I am working as a SCCM architect, wherein my primary roles and responsibility is to implement SCCM in companies. I have expertise on SCCM, Intune, Active Directory application packaging, Azure PowerShell, and I do the implementation and project task. Plus, I am involved in training, wherein I have trained more than 20,000 students globally. These are my uh, website, blog, email address. So that's about me, guys. Let me take you to the next slide. Next slide talks about the duration of the training. Duration is 30 hours. We will do daily 1 hour session, Monday to Saturday. Okay, daily 1 hour session, Monday to Saturday. And it is going to take 1 month to finish all the topics. So we are starting from 5th of September. Today, 5th of September. So we will be able to finish it off in first week of October. So daily we are going to do the session at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. India time. Okay, 8 to 9 India time, IST. Okay, now let me quickly give you the historical background of this SCCM. SCCM is a Microsoft product, as you all know. Now, SCCM started in the year 1994. The first version was released in the year 1994. Then SMS 2.0 in 1999. Then SMS 2003. Then SCCM 2007, SCCM 2012, SCCM 2015. They released 1511. These three versions released in the year 2016. These three versions released in the year 2017. Then these three versions in the year 2018. These three versions in the year 2019. Okay. But from 19 October, what they did, they changed the name again from SCCM to MECM, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. Okay. Then these three versions released in the year 2020. These three versions released in the year 2021. And this one is released in the year 2022. Okay. Clear? 2022 we got this version. We also have one more version this year, that is 2022 2207. This year they have released 2203 and 2207. 2207 is the latest and greatest version of SCCM. This one is the latest and greatest version. Okay, so if you see the number of years from 1994 to 2022, you see 1994 to 2022, you will see that we have somewhere around more than 25 years this product is there in the market. So previously we used to call it as SMS, System Management Server, then SCCM, System Center Configuration Manager, and then MECM, Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. Clear? My voice is clear, guys? You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so these are the uh, versions released by Microsoft so far. Now, previously we used to have this exam 20-243 and 70-703, but they are expired now. We don't have any um, exam for this one. Okay. Now, why you should make your career in SCCM? Why you uh, why should you learn SCCM? So before you learn any new technology, you should do some analysis, market research. So I have done the market research for MECM, so which I'm gonna give. This slide explains about the market research of SCCM. So this product is there in the market for the past 25 years. Okay, so it's a matured product. It has 43% of market share. Almost all big size company and medium size companies have SCCM. Less number of competitors. It has good vacancies, good salary. People are earning somewhere around 45 US dollar per hour in US, Canada, Australia, European countries. But if you are in India, then you can expect a salary of 800,000 Indian rupees. Okay, yearly basis, you can expect average salary Indian rupees INR 8 lakh 800,000 Indian rupees. Okay, resources are available. We have resources, hundreds of websites are there. If you are stuck somewhere, you can just Google it out and you will get the information. Jobs are available on Naukri, Monster, Indeed, Dice, LinkedIn. So after this training, you need to upload your resume on the leading job portals so that you will receive interview calls. It is the third largest selling product of Microsoft. Microsoft sells operating system on the top, then Office, and then what? SCCM
SCCM.
or MECM. Okay. Now, if you are thinking whether it is easy or whether it has any programming languages, C, C++, Java or something, you need to understand this is easy to learn because everything is GUI based. You don't have any programming languages. You don't have any coding languages in this one. So you should not have any problem in terms of learning this technology. Then it is gonna stay in the market for at least for the next 10 years. Okay, at least it can go beyond that, but next 10 years at least it's gonna be there in the market. So it's a good technology. If you would like to make your career in this one, you can make your career because you have good vacancy, good salary, and uh, it is the third largest selling product of Microsoft. Easy to learn, no programming languages. So these are the factors why you should learn SCCM. Now in SCCM we have three sites: central administration site, primary site, and secondary site. Okay, central administration site is what? It is a site server which can be installed on Windows Server. All these site server, let's say CAS, central administration site, primary site, and secondary site. These are three different site servers in SCCM. Now, central administration site server, primary site server, and secondary can be installed on what? Windows Server. So Windows is what? It's an operating system. So platform will be Windows Server 2012 or greater. So either you can go with 2012 or 2012 R2 or 16 or 19 or 2022. So every site server will have to have will have to be on a separate box. So cache will be on a separate server, primary side will be on a separate server, and secondary side will be on separate server. Now all these sides will have database. So cache will have what? Database. Primary side will have what? Database. And secondary will have what? Database. So all the site will have database, dedicated database. Cache is gonna store the data in its database. Primary is gonna store the data in its database, and secondary will store it in database. Now, how many devices a central administration site can have? 825,000. Maximum 825,000 client machine can be there in a cache hierarchy, in central administration site server hierarchy. In primary site hierarchy, maximum 175,000 client machine can be there. And in secondary site, you can have maximum 15,000 client computers. Okay. So for now, just understand these sites. I will give you more details, and when we do the practical, your confusion will be clear. For now, you understand there are three sites: central, primary, and secondary. All has database. All can be installed on Windows Server separately. Plus, central is an optional site. Optional. Primary is mandatory site, and secondary is an optional site. Optional means they they can be installed only on certain condition. Okay, if the condition is there, then you install central, otherwise you don't install central administration site. Similarly, secondary site can be installed only on certain condition. If the condition is there, then we install, otherwise we don't install secondary. But primary is the main site server. Okay, the primary site is the main site server which has to be there. That's a mandatory site. Okay, primary site is what? That's a mandatory site which has to be there. And one primary can maximum, it can support up to 175,000 client machines. Okay, I will give you more details about this central, primary, and secondary. Let me take you to the central administration site server. You will, if you would like to make a note of it, you can make a note of it, or you will get the recording of this session. After the session, I will be sending you the recording. So central administration side, we were discussing about central. Now what is central? Central is basically an optional site server. Point number one. Sorry. Point number one is what? Central administration site is an optional site server. So you may or may not have this one. Why do we need this one? Central administration site basically needed when you have more than one primary site server. Let's say primary 1 and primary 2. So when you have more than one primary site, then only we need a central. If you don't have more than one primary site, for example, you just have one single primary site, right? And then you don't install central. But the moment you add a new primary site server, then you can go with central administration site on the top, and central will be managing primary sites. So it sits on the top of the hierarchy. First, it is an optional site because it is needed only on certain condition. It sits on the top of the hierarchy. It manages primary site. You see, it is managing what? Primary site server. It is required when there are more than one primary site server. So if you have just one single primary site, you don't install central. But if you have more than one primary site, then you go with a central administration site server. Now it stores the data in the database. Okay, central administration site has database, separate database. It's gonna store everything in its database. Primary site will also have database, right? Let's say primary 1 and primary 2 both have database, and central is managing these two primary sites. Now database is there, The central administration side has database. Now from where it will collect data? It has database, so it's gonna store some data. So from where it is gonna get the data? It's gonna get the data from primary side database, from here. Okay, so it's gonna collect the data. As you see, point number 6 is it collects data from primary side database. Okay. Next point is it does not interact with client machines. SCCM is what? SCCM is to manage client machines. Suppose if you have thousands and thousands of computers all over the globe, you can manage those devices through SCCM. Let's say you are running a company called Yahoo. Yahoo has 100,000 devices all over the globe. So through SCCM, you can manage the devices. And management is possible through SCCM primary side and secondary side. CAS does not interact with the client machine. For example, you have 50,000 computers. Client machine will never communicate to CAS. Okay, client machine will not communicate to CAS. Okay, that is what the point number 9 is there. Does not interact with client machine and secondary side server. Secondary is also there, but CAS has got nothing to do with secondary. CAS will always be talking to primary. Okay, like this, primary and primary. It will not have communication with the client machines. It will not have communication with the secondary side server. Okay, it does not process client data, right? Client data is processed by primary and secondary. It does not support client assignment. Client assignment is not done through CAS. Okay, how many client computers can be there in one CAS hierarchy? For example, you have CAS and let's say 2 primary side, P1 and P2, and you have some secondary side. So how many client computers can be there in this hierarchy, in one CAS hierarchy? 825,000. How many primary side can be a part of a CAS? A CAS can
Actually,
have, one CAS can have maximum 25 child primary side. Okay, one CAS, for example,
Akash
you have
here.
CAS server.
Uh,
Wait a minute.
Hello. Hi.
1, P2, P3, it can go up to P25. Maximum 25 child primary side you can have in one CAS hierarchy. Okay, it can be installed on Windows Server 2012 or greater. So all these things, all these points are related to CAS. CAS is basically an optional site. It sits on the top of the hierarchy. It manages primary side. It is required. So this is the main point. This is needed only when you have more than one primary site. If you just have one single primary site, a standalone site, then you don't install it. It needs a SQL Server database. It collects data from primary side databases. It does not interact with client machine and secondary side server. It does not process client data. It does not support client assignment. Maximum number of client machines can be there in a CAS hierarchy is 825,000, and 25 maximum child primary side can be associated to a CAS. Yes, guys, any question from anyone?
Yeah, on 11 point, like I did not understand that client assignment.
Client assignment. Client assignment means what? Let's say you have thousands and thousands of clients, 50,000 client. Client means what? Client computers like Windows 10, Windows 7. So on that machine, we install SCCM client. We will install client on those machines. A small software which will be there in all the machine. Now that software, the client, the agent, will not be assigned to CAS. It will be assigned to the primary side. Okay, it will be assigned. Means suppose you are an employee of HCL. So in HCL, you are assigned a project. So that project you are working on that project, that means you are assigned to that project. You are not assigned to any other project. Understood? Clear or not?
Got it.
Any other question from anyone in this case? Central administration side? Central administration side, generally we install this in big organization. When we have like big organization, Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, when you have more than 100, more than 200,000 devices or more than 300,000 devices, then only we install this one, central administration site server. Otherwise, central administration site server is not needed. We don't install it at all. Okay, 1 minute, guys. Now we have primary site server, guys. Primary is what? It's the main site. Without this, nothing will happen. Without this, you can't manage devices. SCCM is what? It's a device management solution, right? Let's say you have 100,000 devices. Some devices are located in Chennai, some devices are located in Noida, some devices are located in Mumbai, some devices are in New York, some devices in Mexico, California. So you have number of devices in these locations. So in a company, you will have devices in headquarter and branch offices. Let's say the headquarter is in New York, right? And the branch office multiple locations. So for example, you have 50,000 devices in headquarter in New York. So primary site we will install in headquarter, and that will be managing all the devices, 50,000 devices in New York. But what about the devices in outside? Let's say these devices are in Mumbai, these devices are in Chennai, these devices are in London. So how will you manage these devices? You will install secondary site for each region, secondary site, and all these secondary will take the policies and contents from primary. So secondary will report to primary. So you start the installation with primary itself. Okay, first you install the primary and then start managing devices. So mandatory site, it's a mandatory one. You cannot go without primary site. If you don't have central, if you don't have secondary, that's okay, but primary has to be there. It cannot be a child of another primary. Both are on the same level. Let's say primary 1 and primary 2, both are on the same level. They are not child of each other, right? It cannot be a child of another primary site. It manages client in well-connected network. As I told you, let's say there is a building in New York, and that is headquarter. And there are like 100,000 devices. Okay, 100,000 devices in New York. All these devices are located in the same location, in the same network. So in that building, 100,000. So we will install one primary site server in that New York region, and that will be managing all these devices, 100 devices. But what about the devices outside? They will be managed by secondary. Why? Because primary will be managing devices on good network. So this has good network connectivity. All these 100,000 devices has good network connectivity because they are all on the same location, on the same network. So primary will be managing devices in well-connected network, and it manages secondary site as well. So let's say secondary in Mumbai, secondary in London, secondary in Chennai. So it is going to manage these secondary site as well. Now, primary server needs SQL database. Primary side needs what? Database. So from where it will collect data? So it is going to collect data from client machines. Let's say there are 50,000 machines in New York. It's going to collect the data. All these devices will send the inventory data and all to primary, and primary is going to store the data in the database. Okay. So it collects data from client machine, plus it is going to collect data from secondary side database. Let's say Mumbai database, secondary side database. So it is going to send this database is going to replicate here. Let's say Chennai secondary side, it will have database. It's going to replicate here. Okay. So it collects data from client machine. As I mentioned, point number 6, it collects data from client machine and from secondary side database. Okay. Now point number 7 is valid only when you have central administration site. Let's say central is there. So central will also have database. So whatever the data primary collected, it's going to pass on to central like this. Okay. So it replicates its data to central administration side database. Now this point is only valid when you have central, otherwise it is not valid at all. Point number 8, it supports client assignment. So all the machines are assigned to primary side server. How many client computers can be managed in one primary side hierarchy? 175,000. So one primary side can manage up to 175,000 devices. It's a big number, guys. And it supports 250 secondary sides. So it can support up to, so you can install 250 secondary side in one primary side hierarchy. And it gets installed on Windows Server 2012 or greater. Okay, any question in this primary side, guys? Anyone? All clear? Or any question? You are free to ask question, guys.
Kashif, I have a small doubt on point number 3.
Mm.
What do you mean by well-connected network? Is it related to the LAN connection network? LAN network?
Generally LAN network,
Okay.
which has good connectivity. So LAN has good connectivity. But in case if you have, let's say, connection is WAN, but the connectivity is, let's say, uh, from one location. Let's say this is location 1, and you have another location, and there's a connectivity between these two locations. Okay, let's say location 1 and location 2, Mumbai and Navi Mumbai, for example. Now the
Okay.
connectivity is WAN network, but the connectivity is as good as LAN. For example, 2 Gbps per second. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so 2 gigabit per second. If you have this kind of connectivity, it's a well-connected network, right? So it can manage devices in these two locations. You don't need a secondary side if the connectivity is good as like this. You don't need secondary. Secondary is needed only to control the network bandwidth. Generally, we don't get a good connectivity in WAN network. Okay, we have limited
Okay.
connectivity, like one maximum 100 Mbps line we get. Okay, we don't
Okay.
get in gigabit. So that's the reason primary side do not support the, I mean, it will manage devices through secondary. It will not directly manage those devices. Okay,
Okay. Got it.
primary is very important, guys. Primary is the main site in SCCM. Without primary, you cannot manage devices, because we deploy application, we deploy updates, we deploy operating system. Everything is done through primary. All the administration tasks are done through primary. Okay, Mayank has a question. Can SCCM administrator work remotely like software developer? Yes, why not? So if you're working in IT, most of the IT jobs are remote jobs, right? So SCCM administrator can also work remotely. That's not a problem. Okay, so now secondary site server. Secondary is what? Secondary is an optional site server. Without secondary, I mean, secondary is needed only when you have branch office. So point number one, it's an optional site server. Point number two, it cannot exist without a primary. Let's say you don't have primary site. If you do not have primary site, then you cannot have secondary site. Secondary is a child of primary. Without parent, child cannot exist. Say the primary site is the parent for secondary. So secondary site can be installed like this. So if you don't have primary, you cannot install secondary. Secondary will be there in the branch office to manage the devices in remote location. So point number 3 is it is needed when you need to manage devices in remote location. Let's say you have devices in Mumbai, devices in Chennai, devices in London. So you don't manage the devices through primary. What you do, you install secondary site on those region, and secondary will be managing the devices and sending the data back to the primary. Why do we need it? To control the network bandwidth. Because let's say, for example, you watch this properly, guys. For example, you have New York, and New York is headquarter, and you have 100,000 devices. So primary is managing all these devices. But what about the devices in Mumbai? Let's say Mumbai has 5,000 devices. Chennai has 10,000 devices. So in order to manage these devices in Mumbai and then Chennai, what will happen? If you try to manage them through primary, the primary side will choke up, the network will choke up on the primary side server, because you see 15,000 devices are connecting on the WAN network. Okay, so it will choke up. That's the reason what we do, we don't install this thing, we don't manage the devices through primary in the remote location. We will install secondary in each region. Secondary will be installed. Okay, so it requires SQL. It manages devices in remote location to control network bandwidth. It requires SQL Express or SQL Server Database. So you can install SQL Express, that's free of cost, or SQL Server Database. It's not free. SQL Server Database is not free, but SQL Express is free. So secondary can store the data in what? SQL Express database or SQL Server Database. It collects data from client computers. So let's say you have 5,000 machines in Mumbai. So for all these 5,000 machines, it is going to manage them and send the inventory to this secondary. Secondary is going to store the data in the database. So it collects data from client machines. Then it replicates the data to the primary side. Let's say primary is there on the top and you have database. So secondary is going to replicate the data to the primary. Okay. Then it supports maximum 15,000 client machines. So in Mumbai or London or Chennai, the branch office, you can have maximum 15,000 devices to be managed by secondary. If you have more than 15,000 devices, then you need more than one primary site. It does not interact with central administration site server. It will have interaction only with primary. It can be installed on Windows Server 2012 or greater. Any question? Anyone in secondary? All good? No question?
Just one question. Is there any data sinks between that? So if we have multiple secondary site, so will there be any replication of the data between all of
Secondary?
those? Or yes?
No. Secondary data will be always replicating to primary. Secondary and secondary will not replicate to each other.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay. And there will be only one primary server, right?
You can have more than one. Generally, we have one primary site server and multiple secondary. Okay, generally like this. But if you are working in a company wherein you have more than 175,000 devices, so when you have more than 175,000 devices, then what will you do? You will have to install additional primary site, because one primary can manage up to this one. This is the
Right. Right. Okay.
maximum number of a primary. So you will install another primary, let's say primary 2, and it will have another secondary site server. Okay.
Got it.
Now the architectural diagram, you see, suppose if you are working in a company which is very small size company, so generally they will have this primary site server. Let's say Houston has 50,000 devices. So you will install one single primary to manage these 50,000 devices. Okay. Now, if you have a medium-sized companies, right? Then you will have primary plus secondary. So primary, let's say 50,000 devices is there in primary. I mean the Houston, the primary is managing these 50,000 devices. But what about the branch office computers? Let's say 5,000 machines in Seattle, 10,000 machines in Boston. So they will be managed by secondary. Secondary will be managing, and secondary will not have its own policies and contents. It will always be fetching the policies and contents from primary. Primary is the policy and content supplier to secondary, and then it finally supply to the devices in branch offices. So this is medium size organization. Generally 99% of time you will see this kind of architecture in company: one primary and multiple secondary, one primary and multiple secondary. That is the ideal scenario, typical architecture. But if you have big organization, very rare kind of deployment, but you might see this kind of deployment in big organization, wherein you will have more than one primary. Let's say primary 1, primary 2, and primary 3, and all of them will report to a CAS server. CAS is what? It's a central administration site sitting on the top of the hierarchy. Okay, so these are the three architectural diagrams for small size companies, medium size companies, and big organization. Now, generally, the typical architecture is like this. 99% of time, you will have this kind of architecture in companies. You will have primary, let's say primary site in headquarter. Headquarter is where? In New York. New York has 10,000 devices. You know, just for an example. So primary site is managing all the devices in New York, and it is collecting the data and putting in the database. So primary has its database, a big database. Primary is going to store the data here. Now secondary will be managing the devices in Mumbai, London, and Paris. So secondary will be taking the information from, it will be managing these devices and collecting all the information and putting it in the database. Okay. Similarly, in London, it is collecting all the information and putting in the London. Similarly, in Paris. Now, whatever the data secondary side has, all these are secondary side databases. It is going to replicate to primary like this, primary database. Okay, all clear, everyone? Any question?
Now, what kind of information do we store in the database? Like,
Inventory,
is it
the file,
standard?
the computer information. Huh?
Is is it same across
Computer
every
information.
organization?
Yes. Computer information, the name of the machine, the user ID, the machine last logged in, last log on, machine operating system information, RAM, processor, monitor, keyboard, hard disk, all those information.
Oh,
Okay.
so if a machine is decommissioned and a new machine is onboarded, the database will be updated instantly.
Not instantly, it will collect the information. So client, in every machine you have client, you know, the agent is there. Agent will be scanning the machine and sending the information to the site server, and site server will be taking and putting in the database. So it depends on the policies. Generally we give like 1 day inventory or 7 days inventory. So within 7 days you will be able to get the inventory from the devices. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, secondary has database, primary has database, and central has database. So whatever the data secondary has collected from the branch office computers, it's going to pass on to primary. Whatever the data primary side has, it's going to pass on to central database. So we have discussed about 3 things so far: central, primary, and secondary. Okay, so tomorrow when we meet, we will discuss about site roles. There are many roles available in SCCM. Roles are components. We will discuss about those components tomorrow. So we discuss about central, primary, and secondary today. Any question? No question? Okay.
Kashif,
So guys,
Ashwini,
yeah.
Kashif, can you just explain that point from the CAS, that
Wait,
client assignment one, client assignment, 11th one again?
this one.
Yeah.
Client assignment means client will always be pointing to which one. The client machine, you have 100,000 client machines. Let's say you have 100,000. So you are, these are, every machine will have client. The client means the SCCM agent will
SCCM
be there.
client.
The agent,
Okay.
yeah, the agent will have no connection with central administration side. It will not be assigned. It will not be assigned to central. It will be assigned to primary. The primary site is the one where it will be assigned. Assigned means it will be pointing to that one. Got it?
Oh, okay. That means
Suppose
the
suppose you
endpoints will
have,
not.
wait a minute, suppose you have 10 different devices on your uh, in your at your home, right? 10 devices. All the devices are connected to a Wi-Fi router, right?
Hmm.
So all those 10 devices are assigned to that Wi-Fi router. That Wi-Fi is basically supplying the internet to all your all your mobile devices. So all devices are assigned to that Wi-Fi router. Got it?
Okay. That means they will not directly point to CAS, right? That
They will
that
not
is
be
the meaning.
having, they will not be assigning, I mean, have any interaction with CAS.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
CAS is only for primary side. It manages primary. Just for the inventory purpose, we install CAS. Okay. Any other question from anyone?
Hello.
Now, guys, I just wanted to take you to the last slide. Now, this is my number, WhatsApp, or you can also call
Also,
me on this number. Yeah.
I have one quick question. Can you please
Hello.
go to slide? can you please go to slide 1 of central administration site where you mentioned that it supports maximum 8,25,000 computers collectively?
CAS, right? This one, yeah.
Yes, it supports 825,000 client computers. Now, and it supports 25 child primary sites. Now, each primary site is capable of managing 1,75,000 computers.
Right.
So, if I multiply 1,75,000 by 25, isn't it going to exceed the number of computers that
Yeah,
CAS can
right, right. But in one CAS hierarchy, suppose if you have CAS, and that CAS has, let's say CAS is there, and you have multiple primary, let's say primary 1 and then 25. So total number of devices, I know that you are right. It is saying that one primary can support up to 175,000. But in total, if you calculate the total number of devices, whatever assigned to primary 1, whatever assigned to primary 2, primary 3, primary 4, a maximum, the total number of devices, it cannot exceed with 825,000. That's the number given by Microsoft. That otherwise the CAS will not be able to support the devices properly. You will have a delay, and then the replication issue. There will be a lot of issues will be there. So I know that one primary site has that capability, but in
so the
total,
threshold will go.
when it is a part of hierarchy of the CAS,
Mhm.
then
Oh,
it will not, you can't use that method, that 175,000. You have to focus on this number, maximum number.
oh,
Okay,
thank you.
no worries. Any other question from anyone?
Hello.
I see.
Hi, sir.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Yes, hi, I can hear you.
Uh, Hi, sir. Already I took your classes with me. Yeah.
Mm,
Hello.
yes. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Since last 3 months, my resume updated. Since last 3 months, I have been updated. Not getting calls, sir.
Have you have uploaded your resume on multiple job portals? Hmm?
Yeah, someone,
Have you
sir.
uploaded on Naukri, Monster, LinkedIn? Huh?
Yeah, yes, sir. Naukri, Moonstar, LinkedIn, I will update, sir, daily.
Yes. Yeah, you need to update so that these are the leading job portals. Now people are looking for interview. SCCM administrator on these job portals.
Yeah, many vacancies are going on for SCCM. Okay.
Yeah. Vacancies are there, right?
Yeah, because sir, many vacancies, TCS, SCL, many vacancies are going on for SCCM administrator currently.
Okay.
Also, Accenture is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. You will also you will also need to join to a WhatsApp group or Facebook group so that you will be getting, you will get notified as soon as the vacancies and the interview, uh, interview is getting conducted. You will get to know about it.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am not added your WhatsApp group, sir.
Which location you
Okay.
belong from? Hello.
Andhra Pradesh. Hello.
Okay, Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh. Okay, okay. So you want to move from Delhi NCR or you want to searching the job in the Andhra Pradesh only? Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Ralu, you there? Okay. His audio is disconnected. Okay, no worries. So now, guys, this is my number, WhatsApp number, and you can also call me. Now, those who would like to continue from tomorrow, you need to make payment and enroll to this course so that you will, be given all the training materials, all the documents, all the videos and everything. I will be creating a WhatsApp group today and add you guys, those who enroll to this course. And from tomorrow onwards, we will do the theory plus practical sessions. Okay, clear?
Thank you.
Ashwini,
Yeah, clear.
Hitesh,
Yes.
Mayank, Akash,
Yes, sir.
Arkesh.
Yes.
Also, I went onto your website, Make Me IT Expert, and explored the courses that you offer. You have a course on the Active Directory as well. So before doing this, do we have to do?
No,
Are we
not
expected
needed.
to be very well acquainted with
No,
Active Directory and SharePoint?
no, not needed. Any other question from anyone? The course, so today was the first day, guys. We will do the session from tomorrow 8 a.m. India time, IST, 8 to 9. Okay, daily basis we are going to do Monday to Saturday. So those who are interested to continue from tomorrow, kindly reach me on this number and make payment. I'll guide you the payment process and all. Okay, any question before we wrap it up? Okay. Okay, guys. I hope the session was informative and we'll meet tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bye now.
Okay, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.